My shop has steered hard into becoming a traditional woodshop space. But it all started in my apartment with a 3D printer. Not this one. A different, worse one. Though I will say that at this point I think a 3D printer is an essential addition to literally any shop. A basic grasp of 3D modeling is necessary for custom pieces, but there exist large repositories of models others have made as well. Many of which are useful for organization or replacement and repair, or improvement in some cases. Here's an instance of creating a new handle for this planer so that it would still fit within the dimensions of my flip card. I also recently broke all of my old 3D printed bandsaw throat plates, so I fixed the model to be a little bit thicker and printed them again with a larger layer size. I have more, they are better than ever, and it took mere minutes of effort. Anytime you think to yourself, I wish I had this simple little piece that did X, Y, and or Z, that's a moment where you need a 3D printer. I got this house and started converting the garage about 5 years ago. That's also when I acquired this Creality CR-10 printer. Out of the box, it was already outperforming my prior printer, which was an old Keedy Tech X dual extruder that was essentially a MakerBot knockoff. You could tell it was good because of the X in the name. Back to the CR-10, over the years I have noticed a few shortcomings that with some non-technical physical upgrades, I was able to sufficiently and consistently improve results. I don't fully know if there are any issues with the stock gantry shroud, but I found that changing the cooling profile to something more open, as well as more focused part cooling, an easy upgrade. I found a cooling duct design, which is linked in the description, that looked like it ticked all the boxes for my upgrade, and I've been rolling with it ever since. As a component of that, I swapped out the part fan for a 5015 fan with similar voltage and amp draw, and I also swapped out the heat break fan with a Noctua fan that was thicker and had increased CFM. Effective cooling makes changes to the settings more apparent, and removing possible physical limitations from the printer is always going to be a good return on investment. In my experience printing, I don't remember exactly how or when I noticed the issues with feed rate. For some reason I think it was whenever I was trying to use PETG for boat parts. Regardless, I had parts that were kind of underfilled, stringing between travels that I couldn't figure out with settings alone, and I seem to remember examining the Bowden extruder and finding particles and other gunk on the parts. And that's when I found an all-metal replacement for the drive feed, again the link in the description, and this immediately improved print quality. Bonus, it's only $10. I can't really explain all of the different ways that this is improving the print, but I personally believe that it mostly derives from increased accuracy on retraction operations. I recently filled a large order of ring molds for a team of chefs, and I found at first that I was having a consistent bulge in prints near the beginning. After that, it kind of appeared to resolve itself for the remainder of the print. I didn't see anything in particular wrong that could have explained the issue, but given that it was happening on the Z-axis, I started analyzing all the possible pain points. That's how I came to this conclusion, and why I think that underestimating any of the tuning on the printer is going to be your biggest mistake every time. I find that for printers with a single lead screw driven Z-axis, you really have to watch the guide bearings for the far side gantry support. Too tight, and you're probably going to get something like the bulge I was talking about earlier. The stepper motor and the lead screw have to work against the friction of the far support. As it's dragged down and your gantry becomes misaligned, that mistake accrues in the print until it's overcome, snaps back into position, more or less, and the print continues. Too loose and you're making the Z-axis stepper motor work harder anyway because you have no support, but you're also sacrificing dimensional accuracy. I find it works best when the cammed wheels can be spun against the supporting aluminum extrusion with a decent amount of effort, but also not seeing much deflection in the gantry arm. I've been thinking about adding on a larger hot end assembly, maybe a direct drive extruder, but I think straining the gantry with additional weight could cause issues with the Z-axis drooping. Though for what I've been doing in the shop, I don't feel it's very necessary. Recently I've started printing with a 0.8mm nozzle and printing at a 0.5mm layer height. Prints have been stronger than ever and complete in a small fraction of the normal time. For the time being, I don't really have any complaints, so there's not much that I have a drive to upgrade. Those are the only changes I have made to improve the output of this CR-10. They don't have a lot of bells and whistles, but with close attention, they can produce fantastic results. But I would like to leave off saying that these upgrades are a great addition to a stock CR-10, but the best way to improve your results is to pay attention to what the print is telling you about the state of your machine. Diagnostic and calibration prints are available, and learning the terminology to describe problems in a print will go far in helping you understand what might need changing in your printer's fine-tuning, or at least Googling it. My CR-10 has lived in a garage with no air conditioning and until very recently in a much worse enclosure with low-quality dust control for like 4 or 5 years. It was very rare that I needed to do any kind of major overhaul. Keeping up with bed leveling and maintenance was really all that was necessary to keep getting much more than adequate results. If that's not your experience, that's a good indicator that there's something worth addressing in your current printing setup. Be it a physical adjustment or fine-tuning your printer's profile settings. Good luck and happy printing!